Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Prabhupada Disciples Association weekly class program for our online YouTube channel. My name is Vishwakarma Das. I'm your host this evening, and we look forward to an enlivening discussion on the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the unedited version of the Caitanya-caritāmṛta as produced by Prabhupada in his marathon to write these books for the benefit of mankind moving on into the future. Prabhupada had told us that his movement could fail, but his books would never fail, because the truth is contained in the sound vibration that he produced for humanity moving forward into history. This is called the Vani incarnation of the spiritual master. In other words, Krishna and his pure devotee, they appear in the form of sound vibration. Just like we were discussing earlier in the week about the holy name of Krishna being non-dual. That means the name and the form of Krishna are identical in sound, as opposed to the duality of the material world, where unless you have the form with the name, it remains separated. So water, you can drink water only if the water is present in your cup on your table. Otherwise, no water, just simply by saying the word water. So sound is the basis of Krishna conscious philosophy, transcendental sound, the sound of hearing the holy name and chanting the holy name. This is recommended by Lord Chaitanya as the process for spiritual advancement in the Kali Yuga. And along with the chanting of the holy name is the explanation of Krishna consciousness given by the pure devotee. This opportunity that we have is very, very unique, because Prabhupada emerged through his life. He emerged into this profound Jagat Guru for all people at all times. And the information, the education that he has delivered us is extraordinarily amazing, totally amazing. Today is Ekadasi here on the east coast of Canada, and so we've been following Ekadasi and concentrating on hearing and chanting throughout the day, doing extra rounds and listening to lectures. I had a chance to listen to a couple of Prabhupada's lectures earlier today. And hearing the way he spoke was so enlivening for me personally, because everything that he spoke in these lectures had such deep, profound understanding of our philosophy. And when Prabhupada spoke, and when all of you hear his lectures, you'll see how his words are so deep and perfect, beyond any ordinary human being. It's not an ordinary experience to have the opportunity to be humble before the lotus feet of the spiritual master. It is an extraordinary opportunity for us to be able to hear him speak and present the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in such an extraordinary manner. So we're very fortunate to be following this path of Prabhupada focus. Along with the focus is the reading of Prabhupada's books that have not been edited by his disciples. There has, of course, been editing. Prabhupada wanted some editing of his books for presentation in the worldwide community. But this was grammatical fixing of the books. Some spelling mistakes, some punctuation like that, corrections. But the actual content of the books, he wanted to remain intact. And that was his instruction: do not change my books. Do not change anything. Do not change the kirtans. Do not change the management system that I've laid out for you in my constitution and in the direction of management that he gave in 1970 in the DOM document. He gave a lot of directions to all of his disciples how to act in Krishna consciousness after his departure. Were they followed? No, not at all. For example, right after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, the GBC at the time went ahead and misinterpreted the Ritvik system of initiation and decided that they would become acharyas, gurus. They decided that they would take over that role in the zonal guru system. There's never been in the history of Vaishnavism, there's never been an elected guru system up until this time in history. Never. If you can think of anyone or any time that ever took place, please let us know. But it is our understanding very clearly that there is no such thing as elected gurus. And this elected guru system has created chaos in the Vaishnava preaching system of Lord Chaitanya that Prabhupada introduced to us. And nowadays, there's been so many things going on. It's been unfortunate. I just saw a video today that was sent to me by one of our godbrothers of a conversation between Bashu Ghosh and Bhaktivedanta Swami. And this Bhaktivedanta said, well, the movement has already collapsed. He made that announcement today. I guess it's a current video. And he said that the movement has split. It has split. There's all kinds of controversy over all the different issues that have gone on. And as a result, the mission has split. So with this type of thing going on in the movement that Prabhupada started, it's behooving to us to form the Prabhupada's Disciples Association as an opportunity for us to associate with people online and in other formats that we're introducing to keep Prabhupada focused as the Diksha and Siksha Guru for us. So once again, we want to thank you all that are joining us tonight for the Caitanya-caritāmṛta class, which is going to be given by one of our senior preachers and members, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. And after his presentation, I'll make a few more comments on the lecture, and then the floor will be open for general discussion amongst us on different points of philosophy. And then we'll be completing the class with a kirtan at the end, and then our offering of humble obeisances to each other to conclude the class. This is part of the Prabhupada Disciples Association Prabhupada TV network. So sections, as you know, this class is being recorded for that purpose, and certain sections of the class will be used for propagating our philosophy online as the focused association to preserve Prabhupada's legacy for him as the founder and acharya of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So Venkat Prabhu, please go ahead, play the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers, and we can look forward to the upcoming class. Hare Krishna.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataha Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before we begin the reading today, I wanted to read two texts from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 20 and 21. Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 20 and 21. Granterarambe Kari Mangala Acharana, Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I've invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera smaraneyai vigna vinashana, anayaseyai nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. So today we'll be reading from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 62. All synonyms, translations, and purports and commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. We are reading from page number 63. Sadhavu hridayam mahyam, sadhunam hridayam tvaham, madanyatina jananti, naham tibhyo managapi. Sadhavaha, the saints, hridayam, heart, mahyam, my, sadhunam, of the saints, hridayam, the heart, 2, indeed, aham, I, mat, then me, anyat, other, te, they, na, not, jananti, no, na, nor, aham, I, tibya, then them, manak, slightly, api, even. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Saints are my heart, and only I am their hearts. They do not know anyone but me, and therefore I do not recognize anyone besides them as mine. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This verse appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9:468 in connection with a misunderstanding between Durvasa Muni and Maharaja Ambarisha. As a result of this misunderstanding, Durvasa Muni tried to kill the king. When the Sudarshan Chakra, the celebrated weapon of Godhead, appeared on the scene for the devoted king's protection. When the Sudarshan Chakra attacked Durvasa Muni, he fled in fear of the weapon and sought shelter from all the great demigods in heaven. Every one of them was unable to protect him, and therefore Durvasa Muni prayed to Lord Vishnu for forgiveness. Lord Vishnu advised him, however, that if he wanted forgiveness, he had to get it from Maharaj Ambarisha, not from him. In this context, Lord Vishnu spoke this verse. The Lord, being full and free from problems, can wholeheartedly care for his devotees. His concern is how to elevate and protect all those who have taken shelter at his feet. The same responsibility is also entrusted to the spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master's concern is how the devotees who have surrendered to him as a representative of the Lord may make progress in devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always mindful of the devotees who fully engage in cultivating knowledge of him, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Text number 63. Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhutaha Swayam Vibho Tirti Kurvanti Tiratani Svantasvena Gadabrita. Bhavat, your good self. Vidaha, like. Bhagavataha, devotees. Tirtha, holy places of pilgrimage. Bhutaha, existing. Swayam, themselves. Vibho, O Almighty One. Tirti Kurvanti, make into holy places of pilgrimage. Tirtani, the holy places. Svantastena, being situated in their hearts. Gadabrita, by the personality of Godhead. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Purport by His Divine Grace. This verse was spoken by Maharaj Yudhishthira to Vidura in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1:13-10. Maharaj Yudhishthira was receiving his saintly uncle Vidura, who had been visiting sacred places of pilgrimage. Maharaj Yudhishthira told Vidura that pure devotees like him are personified holy places, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always with them in their hearts. By their association, sinful persons are freed from sinful reactions, and therefore, wherever a pure devotee goes is a sacred place of pilgrimage. The importance of holy places is due to the presence there of such pure devotees. Text 64. Se bhaktaganai dvivida prakar parishada gana eka sadaka gana ar. Say these bhaktagan devotees high are dvivida twofold, prakara varieties, parishad gana factual devotees, eka one, sadaka gan prospective devotees are the other. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Such pure devotees are of two types: personal associates, parishats, and neophyte devotees, sadhaka. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Perfect servitors of the Lord are considered his personal associates, whereas devotees endeavoring to attain perfection are called neophytes. Amongst the associates, some are attracted by the opulences of the personality of Godhead, and others are attracted by mutual love of Godhead. The former devotees are placed in the realm of Vaikuntha to render reverential devotional service, whereas the latter devotees are placed in Vrindavana for the direct service of Sri Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. By the way, before we start the discussion here, I want to bring everyone's attention to the screen behind Bhakta Michael's picture. He has a beautiful altar with the pictures of Srimad Bhagavatam and other wonderful things over there. It's just very, very nice. He has the original 3 volumes of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that were published in India. It is just a very beautiful sight. Thank you, Bhakta Michael. That is really nice. Really nice. I just want to make a point here. There was a comment by Vishwakarma Prabhu in the beginning that some people feel that there's difficulty in the original society that Srila Prabhupada started, the ISKCON organization. Now, Prabhupada wrote a letter in the mid-1970s to a senior leader in Los Angeles, and he described, if there are any difficulties in our society, it means that the instruction and the orders of the spiritual master are being neglected. So that is one explanation from Srila Prabhupada why there are difficulties. The whole purpose of this association here and our joining online is to basically promote the hearing, to hear from the Acharya, his purports, his commentaries, and his explanation of revealed texts, of revealed scriptures, such as the Caitanya-caritāmṛta. The Caitanya-caritāmṛta was completed in 1615 in Vrindavan. Krishna Das Kaviraj, the author, had been requested by all the great devotees of Vrindavana, the 6 Goswamis and numerous other associates of Lord Chaitanya, to compile the activities of Lord Chaitanya and the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, who is considered one of the topmost acharyas, along with Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, they all requested Krishna Das Kaviraj to compile this book. Now, earlier in the 16th century, we had different devotees, such as Vrindavan Das Thakur, who compiled Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, and we had other devotees who compiled the Chaitanya Mangala, some other devotees, describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there were numerous songs that had been written by Narahari Sarkar Thakur and numerous great devotees describing the intimate pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. but no one had written a comprehensive explanation, presentation of the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the systematic presentation of the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That's how the Caitanya-caritāmṛta came. Now, in the beginning of the Caitanya-caritāmṛta in chapter 1, we saw in text number 20 and 21, what is the benefit? Like somebody may ask, well, why are you people getting together here and doing all this? Well, Krishnadas Kaviraj has explained nicely the great benefit of doing that. In text number 20, he describes in the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I've invoked their benedictions. So somebody may ask, well, what's the benefit of this? Because everybody does activities for a purpose, for a benefit. So what is the benefit? Krishnadas Kaviraj explains. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. So this is the benefit of hearing Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. In other words, by hearing this sacred text and the transcendental activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, all difficulties will be destroyed. And by remembering the Acharya, the spiritual master, and spiritual masters, such as the 6 Goswamis, then we invoke their benediction. So this is why we're having these discussions. In text number 62, Prabhupada is describing nicely how the Lord, being full and free from problems, can wholeheartedly care for his devotees. His concern is how to elevate and protect all those who have taken shelter at his feet. Now, this is a very important point, because we see that there's a lot of atheistic, agnostic propaganda in the world. Why are all these religious people wasting time in praying? There is no God. They're trying to present a philosophy that everything happens by chance, happens from some kind of a big bang. Well, the example is sometimes given. If you have a wonderful building, did it happen from a big bang? Did somebody design the building? Did somebody build the building, assemble the materials, put it together? Of course. So why do they think that this big creation, this universe, with all of its planets and the wonderful things that we see in the world, happened by chance? That is simply foolishness. So those who are devotees, who understand the presence of the Lord, how God creates everything. We saw last week in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna, the great sage Sutta Goswami is describing to the sages of Naimisharanya how in the purport Prabhupada explains that God is that person from whom everything emanates. Janmadyasya yataha. In the Vedanta Sutra, he described that Brahman or God is that person from whom everything emanates. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Aham sarvasya prabhavatu mata sarvam pravartate. That I am the source of everything, the material world, the spiritual world, everything. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, it says, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam. All living entities coming from me. He is the seed-giving father of all living entities. So this is not difficult to understand. It is not very complicated to understand. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by chance. The creation of the world did not happen by chance. The position of the various living entities does not happen by chance. I often relate the story how Srila Prabhupada discussed one time with another religionist. They were discussing what happens after death. And Prabhupada was explaining that the karma in this life, the activities that you do in this life, will lead to the next life. And this person says, well, we don't believe in transmigration or reincarnation. Then Prabhupada asked him, So how do you account and how do you explain for the different varieties of living entities, even in human society? Is everyone the same? Is everyone born the same degree of intelligence? Is everyone have the same degree of beauty? Is every human being have the same degree of strength? No, there are differences. Well, where did these differences come from? Why are some people born in very poor family if some person may be born in a very rich family? Why? Why is everybody not born in a rich family? We see in the Vedas, they have the codes of logic. And the codes of logic is if we see an effect, that means there is a cause. There is a reason for all these different situations. According to Purva Karma. Everybody has heard of karma. The word Purva in Sanskrit means previous. Previous activity results in the current karma, current activity. And the current karma that we produce in this life will result in the future birth. But this human form of life is we have the opportunity to solve all the problems. Somebody said, well, how do we do that? That's why the Bhagavad Gita, different revealed scriptures are there. Prabhupada recently, I was listening to a lecture. He was explaining how Jesus Christ, Hazrat Muhammad, Lord Buddha, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, all the great prophets, all the great saints and sages, Madhva, Ramanuja, Lord Chaitanya, nobody is telling the human society to try to make a permanent plan here. Why? Because this is a place of suffering. There's a better place, a better situation. Well, what is that? Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that after you give up this material world, if you remember Krishna, you go back to Godhead, to the kingdom of God, to the spiritual world. Well, there's no more suffering. Natad bhashayate suryo nasashanka napavakaha. That spiritual world is the original world, the transcendental planet, Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha. Prabhupada touches upon this in this chapter here, how he explains that the devotees are placed, former devotees are placed in the realm of Vaikuntha to render reverential devotional service, whereas the latter devotees are placed in Vrindavana for the direct service of Krishna. So one can reach that abode. Somebody may, like Prabhupada wrote that famous book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. Now this book is very special because it was written before Prabhupada came to America. And if you study the structure of this book, it is a very systematic explanation how we can go from this life to the liberated life. Because there is always interest amongst intelligent human beings to go to other planets. That is a natural inquiry. That is a natural desire of various living beings to go to other planets. But you can't go artificially. We see in the Ramayana, the story of Lord Ramachandra, or Ravana, who stole Sita. He tried to make a stairway to the higher planets, to heaven. Did not work. Cannot be done. You cannot reach higher planets by artificial mechanical means. One has to get a suitable body. Just like we see in the Bhagavatam, how Shukadeva Goswami said the inhabitants of the higher planets has a much longer life, no suffering, and the women there are thousands of times more beautiful than even the most beautiful women on this planet. They have no suffering, no anxiety. It is almost the spiritual world, but still, because it is still within the material world, person has to come back here, unless by his special devotional activities, he gets transferred to the spiritual world. We hear from the Vedas and Warlord Brahma, on his planet, when there's devastation of the material world, he's transferred to Vaikuntha, along with all the inhabitants there. There's also the planet of Dhruvaloka, the pole star. That is a permanent planet. When the material world is devastated, that pole star and all the great rishis, inhabitants there, When the material world is devastated, it is not devastated. It is a special planet. So one can be transferred to these situations. That's what that little book by Srila Prabhupada described. Easy journey. Well, what is that easy journey? Prabhupada describes one has to take shelter. By their association, we're reading from text number 63, the last sentence. By their association, sinful persons are freed from sinful reactions. And therefore, wherever a pure devotee goes is a sacred place of pilgrimage. The importance of holy places is due to the presence there of such pure devotees. So this is a very important point. We see in the songs of the Vaishnava-acharyas, the great Vaishnava saints, there's one explanation, Gangara Parashoyali Pavati Pavan. To me, darashana, that the potency of the Ganges is very powerful. But simply by the darshan or the sight of a pure Vaishnava, of a fully realized pure devotee, one can immediately be freed from all sinful reactions, from all bad karma. Well, somebody may say, well, Prabhupada is not here. I can't go to the airport right now to go see him. I can't go on a morning walk with him. But you have 2 ears. You can hear what he said. You can read what he wrote. You're not deprived of the association. In 1969, on the 3rd January 1969 in Los Angeles, California, during a Srimad Bhagavatam class, Prabhupada explained what we have heard from the spiritual master that is living. We see in the Bhagavatam, in the 2nd canto, how Prabhupada described in one place that the name of Krishna is so powerful that even the birds, the beasts, the animals, every living entity benefits. Just like during the last class, I saw Mataji, and the Baya Mataji had a little cat or some kind of little animal coming for the class. Well, that animal, just by hearing Bhagavatam, is benefited, as inconceivable that it might be. Even the dogs. Everybody knows when Prabhupada came to America in 1966, he described the enchanting, the Maha Mantra, that there is no need to learn the language, there's no need of mental speculation. Prabhupada, even a child can take part in it, and even a dog can take part in the chanting. We actually have experience in South India one time. We went in a city near Sri Rangam, and we had Nagar Samkirtan with some devotees, maybe 10, 12 of us, and some dog came along. So some local man was trying to push the dog with a stick. We told him, no, let him come. And the dog was following. And at one point we stopped and danced, and the dog started to dance. Now, why he was doing that or how he learned to do that, whatever it was, we have seen practically that even a dog can take part in the chanting. Even a human being can take part in the chanting. Even if they say it in joking, they get the benefit. We've explained several times from the Padma Purana how even if one chants with faith, Shraddhaya, or Helayava, Helaya means joking, not serious, still one would get the benefit. Of course, if one chants seriously, following the principles, one will get more benefit, more result. Then one can progress on the way back to Godhead, easy journey to other planets. Okay, we'll open up the discussion for comments, remarks, admonishments, chastisements, and questions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for your discussion on Caitanya-caritāmṛta. It was very enlightening. I wanted to, before we open up the floor for questions, once again go back to text 63 here in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta to the purport, which you did read again. And it was very important to stress this point. By their association, sinful persons are freed from sinful reactions, and therefore, wherever a pure devotee goes is a sacred place of pilgrimage. The importance of holy places is due to the presence there of such pure devotees. So this point is very important, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was saying, for us to understand that association is in what the pure devotee speaks, what he practices in his life, how he carries the banner of Lord Chaitanya with him. In the material world, we're always looking to associate with great people, great persons. We're looking for, in soccer, say, for example, they want to associate with the best player in the world, Messi. And everybody's eager to get his association. They want to associate with famous movie stars. They want to associate with beautiful people, gorgeous. So people are attracted to associating with famous people, rich people, who have developed themselves in particular ways. But the greatest association, and myself, I was always searching to associate with great people. That was my goal in life. Especially in my early days, I had a chance to meet a musical person, Jimi Hendrix. He's a famous guitar player. For some of you, you may not have heard of him, but he altered the whole, state of pop music, let's say, from the 60s. Okay, I met Jimi Hendrix. So what? It doesn't mean anything when you compare him to Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, because his association will enable a conditioned soul rotting in this material world, in this body made of bile, pus, stool, and urine, with a mental state of confusion. This association with him can elevate us out of this state of fearfulness and enable us to understand what the real purpose of life is, which is to become Krishna conscious and at the time of death go back home, back to Godhead. What is valuable with the association of these mundane people compared to the association with Prabhupada? There is no comparison, none. Just like his books, there's no comparison to his books to any other books that you can read, because you will not get the same insight from these other books that you'll get from Prabhupada. I had a PhD friend living with me from UCLA. And today I was looking at one of his books he gave me on music and philosophy. I could barely read it for more than 1 minute, realizing that after reading Prabhupada's books on the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, there is no comparison in the value of spending your time in association with the pure devotee in his transcendental literatures. Prabhupada instructs us to read his books. And just one last point before we open up the class further for discussion. When Prabhupada came to Toronto, we had read this passage here, that wherever a pure devotee goes, it becomes a sacred place of pilgrimage. So what we did was we laid out the plan for his morning walks in such a way that we would have him walk all over the city of Toronto. What better benediction would be given to the city of Toronto than having the lotus feet of the pure devotee of Krishna walk all over the city? So we took him to the Parliament buildings, which was down the street from the temple. The temple is on one of the most prestigious streets in Canada. So we took him down the street to, it's called Queen's Park. And Prabhupada walked around the park. He blessed all of the government officials with his presence, even though they're never going to be able to understand how this happened. This is the blessing of the pure devotee and the devotees that engage in the devotional service of Lord Krishna. They are blessing people with their association. So we took him there. He went around, he went to see the statues, he pointed. Then we took him to Don Valley Parkway. If any of you are from Toronto or ever been to Toronto, the Don Valley Parkway is a great park in the city. And he walked along in the park and blessed all of that area. Then we took him to the beaches the next day. And he walked along all of the beaches in that area of the city. So the plan was to take him every day. I was hoping that Prabhupada would stay for a week or two, but unfortunately he got called away to Africa. So he had to leave early, unfortunately, but our plan was to take him everywhere, let him walk all over the city of Toronto and bless the city of Toronto with his association, his lotus feet. So the association of the pure devotee, the opportunity to hear from the pure devotee, the opportunity to go back to Godhead under his direction is now all in our hands. We're the Prabhupada Disciples Association, and it's our job to spread this message of the glories of the pure devotee to the worldwide community. Yaśodā-nandana, could you please comment again?
Yes, this is a very important point. Just like when Srila Prabhupada was in Southern California, many times he would go to Venice Beach, that famous place, and he sanctified the place by his presence. Now, this may be a little difficult to understand for an ordinary materialistic person, but devotees, on the strength of this verse, where it says, Tirti kurvanti tirtani, svanta svena gadabrita, that saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Also, there's a famous park in Los Angeles called Cheviot Hills Park. It's close to a very wealthy area of the city. And it's a very beautiful park, very well maintained. And Prabhupada used to walk there, take very long walks. And many of the discussions in that little book, Life Come Life, Life Comes From Life, came from these walks, these morning walks. We had the good fortune to be with Srila Prabhupada on many of these walks. And it was amazing how Srila Prabhupada many times would not discuss anything, but he would just chant on his beads. Another time, he would just keep talking. So many discussions. There are so many different beautiful conversations with Srila Prabhupada. Right there on the screen, here's that book, Life Comes From Life. So there's so many wonderful discussions, conversations, and association with Srila Prabhupada, like that. Anybody has any points, remarks, comments? Mataji, where's your cat? Does he come for the class? Where is he hiding?
I'm here.
Garuda Prabhu,
Okay.
please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My pranams to you, Yaśodā-nandana ji, and Vishwakarma, and all the rest, the wonderful devotees here. You know, I chuckled when Vishwakarma ji said that he tried reading one of his friends' academic books and had a hard time reading through it. And yeah, we scholars Scholars, scholars tend to do that sort of thing. But here's the thing. There's of course a role for scholarship to introduce authentic Krishna bhakti, the gifts of Srila Prabhupada, in a way that the academic community can appreciate. But here's the thing, Yaśodā-nandana ji is talking about, a tirtha. And so we're talking about Prabhupada's vapu as creating that tirtha, wherever Prabhupada was. I mean, anyone who was in the presence of Srila Prabhupada, I mean, tirtha means a crossing. It literally, in Sanskrit, it means a crossing. When you were with Srila Prabhupada, you felt you were crossing over into another world. I mean, you just didn't know that there was anything else at the time. I mean, it's extraordinary. Now, in reading Prabhupada's books, so there's the Vapu Tirtha, but there's also the Grantha Tirtha, which Yaśodā-nandana ji was eloquently describing earlier. The Tirtha of Prabhupada's great works, Grantha, his great works. So when I have to read scholarly books, academic books, and so on, these are not Grantha Tirthas. These are Granthas that I grunt at, honestly. They're not. You don't take shelter of those books, but you utilize those books. Just as it's a form of yukta vairagya. That's all. Prabhupada used to hit the microphone saying, "See this? This is spiritual." So the microphone. We're not taking shelter of the microphone. We're utilizing the microphone. It's a upaya. It's a means. So I asked, and I just thought I would share this with all of you. I asked Bhanu Swami, whom I don't know personally. I've never met him, but he is a kind of veritable translation mill of dozens and dozens and dozens of the previous Acharya's books and works. Just as an aside, a quick footnote, I had a Sanskrit student of mine in graduate school where I teach up in Berkeley do an analysis of some of his work, and his work is mediocre and somewhat reliable Sanskrit. I mean, honestly. Okay, and so that has a use and so on, archival use and so on. He doesn't write purports to any, or a commentary, any bhashya. So but what was disturbing to me was that on the website advertising his books, it says, now read the nectar, as if to the subtext to say, you've read Prabhupada's books. Okay, you've read those. Okay, now enter into the nectar books of Bhanu Swami's translations. And I said, no, this is not, even if we accept Bhanu Swami's efforts in translating these other Acharya's works and so on, Prabhupada said, everything is here in my books. I've had to go and translate directly large portions of bhashyas to certain parts of the Bhagavata for my own work and so on and so forth. I know a lot about the previous Acharya's works and books, but even there, and I hope I'm not sounding at all offensive here, but even there, they're not my tirthas. They're not my grantha tirthas. To take shelter of a grantha means Srila Prabhupada's books. It really does. I come back to Srila Prabhupada's books over and over, and I read some of the finest scholarship in the world. I read in the acharyas, bhashyas, not so much these days, I'm doing different kind of work, but previously I've done thousands of pages of translation for my own work to be able to write about certain areas of the Bhagavata Purana, so on. But I always return to Srila Prabhupada's books as a tirtha, and that's a different. What happens when you read Prabhupada's books is you open your heart, just like Hanuman opened his heart to show that there is Sitaram. You open, there's no hesitation. You can let anything in. Whereas you read anyone else's books, anyone else's translations, you have to read it a little bit carefully. You have to kind of tread a little bit carefully. With Prabhupada, have you ever, tried, walking around your neighborhood with your eyes closed completely? I mean, if you really knew your neighborhood and trusted your neighborhood, you could do that. With Prabhupada's books, you can do that. You never have to close off from Prabhupada's books. But that is not the case with others' translations and others' writings, unless they truly are there to illuminate and serve and support and contribute to the understanding of Prabhupada's books. That in and of itself is very delightful. Anyway, these are just some thoughts that I have.
Thank you very much for your comments, Prabhu. Greatly appreciated, and your attendance at our weekly classes on Krishna Katha. This is
my privilege. Privilege.
This is the essence of our philosophy, is to get association with other like-minded devotees. It's very important that people understand this principle, because there are so many different groups that are appearing these days online and in other formats, and with all different types of philosophy that they are articulating or explaining. But further, I wanted to elaborate on your point that Prabhupada's books are exceptional. Like, personally, I'm speaking about myself. I always strive for the best, whether it's music, whether it's in business, whatever I've had my focus on in my life, I always go for the topmost opportunity to experience it. I don't go see people in a club that don't know how to play. It's a waste of time. So in the same way, our pursuit is to find the top author. Who is the greatest philosopher of the modern times? And when you find him, do you want to read anything else like this? Here's the book I was given. Gabriel Marcel, Music and Philosophy. My friend, he has a PhD in philosophy from UCLA. He's got a doctorate. He taught at many of the universities, was head of many departments. So for my birthday this year, he gave me this book. I tried to read it a little bit. I just finished reading Caitanya-caritāmṛta. I couldn't even get by one sentence, really. I just go, useless. What's the point? Now, there was a philosophy going around amongst some of our God brothers, and they were saying, oh, you've got to read some of the Gaudiya Math people's books, because Prabhupada, in fact, I heard a lecture online of Narayan saying that Prabhupada he spoke it himself, and maybe Yaśodā has a better reference. Oh, Prabhupada only gave you a certain amount of understanding, and then we give you more. Excuse me. Now, I'm going to take another second here. I'm sorry. I got some books from one of our friends from the Toronto Temple, Mother Subhuti. She had a large collection of books, and in her later years now, she's decided to give them away. So she called me up. She said, oh, I have all these books. Would you like to come and get them? So I went and got them. Now, normally I wouldn't have a book from Sridhar Swami. Okay, normally I wouldn't. because I am fanatical about reading Prabhupada's books only. That's the way I was taught when I started. I understand your situation. You're a philosopher. You're a professor. That's a job that you have. You have to go through. Lots of times you do jobs. You do them because you get paid, not because you want to. If you don't do the job, you don't get your pay. So that is an understanding. You know, you have to read these books. You have to present to people. It's something you do. But in our particular case, we're not compelled by that type of activity. So we're free to read Prabhupada's books and study other books to make comparisons. So I looked at this Sridhar. I've been reading Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Professor, for the last 6 years. I'm reading it for the third time in its entirety. Fantastic. It just gets better because Bhaktisiddhanta only did that at the end of his life. So I thought, okay, well, that's a good idea for me as I approach these final years of my life. Reading Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and I call up my friend Yaśodā-nandana, and I go, how can anyone ever say that Prabhupada didn't present the highest truths that are possible in this universe for conditioned souls like us to understand who Lord Chaitanya is? There's nothing compared. I read this other book from Sridhar. It's not a criticism of him or anything that he's doing. Prabhupada told me personally, do not associate with my God brothers. Sent me a letter. Maybe you've seen that famous letter. So I take that humble position. It's none of my business how he deals with his God brothers. It's out of our realm. We're simply the servants of Srila Prabhupada. It's his business. But anyway, I have this book of Sridhar. I read it. A few pages. I read the translations. I thought, who ever said that these books had more information than Prabhupada is presented in Caitanya-caritāmṛta is a complete, here's a favorite neophyte in this process of Krishna consciousness. A neophyte. Prabhupada is the greatest preacher of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of every human being in the history of the world. And that will be established as we continue to protect his books. No change, Garuda Prabhu. There should be no changes. The books should stay the same. Just like this beautiful Bhagavad Gita I just got. Perfect. It's so beautiful. And it reminds me of when I read it back in 1971 or 72 when we got them. How
72.
Wonderful. Yeah, 72.
Yeah.
When we first got these books. I still have mine here in my library, fortunately. It's been recovered because we wore it out, but nonetheless, these books are the books that people should read and study. Look at that. See that beautiful book, the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, not as it was. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
I wanted to give the floor to Andabhaya Mataji. You have your hand up.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was trying to respond to you earlier, but I couldn't get my microphone on. But I just wanted to respond that there are just a few little pastimes that I have with my cats that people might find interesting. The male, his name is Jagannath. He's the big fluffy one. And when we take the flowers off the altar at night, put him in a little bowl, he stands and he waits because he wants to smell them. And so I put them down low for him and he smells each and every one of them. And then he touches my nose like that to say, he touches my hand with his nose like that to say, thank you, you can take them now. All right. And the other thing, Shama, she's the little black one. And every morning she comes, I sit right here and I chant. She comes and sits at my desk, and she is there every morning. She loves to hear chanting. During Mangal Arti, she used to come every morning. And a lot of mornings she'll come in there where we're circumambulating Tulsi, and she hasn't learned how to circumambulate Tulsi, but she'll stand right next to her and she'll roll around. She just loves that part of the morning. And then she absolutely knows not to touch me when I'm Suchi. She stays away from me, but the other morning she was so cute. She wanted to tease me. She knew I was going to get mad at her if she touched me. So she took her little paw and she's like going towards my sari like that. And I looked at her and she pulls it back. And I wasn't looking. And finally I finished my Gayatri and she could touch me and she's like, ah. But yeah, they come every night when we're reading. We read together in the temple room every night, and it's family time, and both of them come in and they listen to the entire reading and the singing and worship at night. And then we have to kick them out. But yeah, they can participate. They do. And I'm 100% certain that they will get a much higher life next life.
Very nice. Very nice. So Vinayak Prabhu, thank you for these comments, Mataji. Vinayak Prabhu, you had your hand up? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the amazing Sangha and discussing these nice topics. So, on the today's topic that Vishwakarma Prabhu and Garuda Prabhu was discussing, so recently I have observed this tendency that many of the devotees and unfortunately many of the Prabhupada Anugas, they have a tendency that they go to Dhama and Vrindavan and they take some shelter of some devotees there in Radhakunda or Barsana. So mostly like they are in the impression that the thing that Srila Prabhupada disclosed or the teachings that we can get in ISKCON or from Srila Prabhupada is like a graduation in devotional service. However, the post-graduation, if we need to know the actual Krishna consciousness or actual spiritual service, then we have to take some shelter of these devotees in Radhakund or Barsana or some saints in Vraja who are doing this, who are like Rasiks and who are like serving Dhamma for a long time. So I counteracted their arguments many times, but however, like many devotees have their opinions about these things. And they also have one more opinion that Srila Prabhupada had a desire that their disciples go to these devotees or these saintly persons after his departure so that they can get more information about spiritual lives and the pastimes of Krishna. So Prabhu, like, is it possible to throw some light on this?
Well, my question is to these people, where did Prabhupada say to do that, to go outside of his instructions? You will not find, if you study carefully, the entire body of Srila Prabhupada's instructions, that he advised to go to Radhakund Babaji's or other people or other advisors. He did not do that. Now, people have interpreted various statements of Srila Prabhupada to try to justify their adventures outside of his teachings, but we see they become more confused. We've practically seen this. During Prabhupada's manifested presence in 1976, there was one devotee who went to some Babajis in Vrindavan and some caste Brahmins, and he got very confused, and he wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada asking Prabhupada for his blessings so he could find another guru. And Prabhupada's reply is, well, why would you want my blessings if you don't accept my position? So Prabhupada is given plenty of instructions. Prabhupada described that the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta and his purports are the postgraduate study of spiritual science. So if these people are not satisfied with the instructions and teachings of Srila Prabhupada, that is their unfortunate position. But we don't have to follow their example. We can follow Prabhupada's example. Prabhupada gave no instruction for people to go beyond his books, beyond his instruction, to go get advice from every so-called advisor. He did not do that. Jiva Goswami Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I had a question in text 64. In the purport, it talks about the different destinations of the perfected devotees versus the neophyte devotees. One goes to Vaikuntha, one goes to Vrindavan. So I'm confused. It would seem that the neophyte devotees are what I would prefer. I would prefer to go to Vrindavan for performing service, as opposed to going to Vaikuntha and being attracted by certain opulences of the Supreme.
So what is the question?
The question is, what are the opulences that would be greater than devotional service in Vrindavan?
What Prabhupada in his books has given various commentaries with regards to devotees who reach Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan. Usually those who are engaged in various services, personal service, go to Goloka Vrindavan. And the position of Vaikuntha is those who render, as Prabhupada describes here, reverential devotional service. It's not that it's a lesser achievement to reach Vaikuntha. It is still a topmost achievement, just that the platform of reaching Goloka Vrindavan in the higher rasas, Vatsalya, Madhurya, Sakya Rasa, these are very highly elevated. I mean, these things are for paramamsas and highly realized souls. Prabhupada says, perfect servitors of the Lord are considered his personal associates. Now, those who become sadhaka siddha or sadhana siddha, perfect by practice of devotional service, then they can also reach the perfection of Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. But it's not that, like in one place, Prabhupada explained, is not that one is less than the other. Prabhupada said it is all transcendental. It is all completely transcendental. For example, if you go and do a little bit of research and you put Vaikuntha and Goloka, there's so many explanations by Srila Prabhupada about the special position of Goloka Vrindavan. As a matter of fact, when you read the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary, there are so many explanations that are given of the exalted position of Goloka Vrindavan and the exalted position of Vaikuntha also. It's a special kind of rasa. But that rasa that the people in Vaikuntha achieve, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's different varieties that is not there in Vaikuntha. The Madhurya rasa is not there in Vaikuntha. The Vatsalya rasa is not there in Vaikuntha. The Sakya rasa is not there in Vaikuntha. It is a very special, unique position, and especially the presentation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teaching. That's why 1 or 2 classes ago, I was explaining one verse by Srinath Chakravarti, where he explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu matamidam tatra daruna paraha, that the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that great personality, there's no higher personality than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in my opinion. So this relates also to the last question. If people do not understand the special position of Srila Prabhupada, this Nitya Siddha, this eternally liberated soul, who's come from the spiritual world to bring Krishna consciousness to this planet, and his unique devotional literary contribution, it's unfortunate for them. Whatever, I mean, at some point in their journey, they may come back, but they may also be mistaken, misled. So the various explanations of great acharyas and about the position of Vaikuntha, it's not that it's lesser than Goloka Vrindavan. It's a different taste. It's a different devotional taste for those persons who are liberated. I suggest that you can look in the Brahma Samhita. There's a specific verse in Sanskrit, and it describes how Bhaktisiddhanta about the path of people who go to Vaikuntha by reciting different Vedic hymns, which is a very highly elevated position. And it's not that in our Sampradaya we neglect this recitation of Vedic hymns. For example, Rupa Goswami wrote a book called Sri Krishna Abhisheka, Puja Abhisheka, which is how to observe Janmashtami in the Gaudiya Sampradaya according to Vedic principles. And he gives so many Vedic mantras to chant when one redoes the Pancha Gavya and the debating of the deity with Panchamrita, the five holy substances. There's Vedic mantras for each and every one of those. He also recommends chanting the Purusha Sukta. Prabhupada and the Caitanya-caritāmṛta also recommend this. And the Rupa Goswami also recommends chanting the Sri Sukta. So it's not that in the Gaudiya Sampradaya we neglect the chanting of Vedic hymns, but in the Brahma Samhita, I don't know exactly which verse, it's around 35 or 36. I'll send it to you on a separate email when my email is reestablished. Yahoo cut my email tonight. So, but it's a very nice explanation of the destination of these sadhakas, those devotees who practice that devotional service and reverential mood by chanting mantras. Like, for example, the Madhvas and Ramanujas, they chant every day when they do their pujas, which takes about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. They chant the Purusha Sukta, the Sri Sukta, and they chant the Bhrigu Valley of Taittiriya Upanishad, which describes what happens to the liberated souls after they finish their sadhana and go back to Gada, to Vaikuntha. This is Vedic type chanting. And they have other kind of Vedic chanting. So this is highly elevated topics that be understood. But the Brahma Samhita described this, and you can do also a little bit of research. Look at Vaikuntha, the word. Look at Goloka, like that. There's a lot of angles that Srila Prabhupada covers these different topics.
Yashodā-nandana Ji?
Yes,
When
please go ahead.
when Jiva Goswamiji just asked his question, he said, "I prefer the Vrindavan realm as opposed to the Vaikuntha realm," which is evidence to me that Prabhupada made us all addicted to Vraja Leelas. Jiva Goswami, he just said, I prefer the Braj Leelas right away. So this is Prabhupada's grace on such a devotee, that we have such an attraction and such a relish of these beautiful, exquisite, Leelas of Krishna. So I don't know if Jiva Goswami really needs to read the passages on Vaikuntha. It sounds like he sort of just needs to sit and read Krishna book.
There is a place in Prabhupada, very nice. There is a place in Prabhupada's purports where it describes the particular attraction of a devotee for his specific pastimes of Krishna is an indication of his rasa with Krishna. I'm paraphrasing here, but Prabhupada is given, it's like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically has brought to the world a unique understanding of the pastimes of Radha Krishna and a very, very special position of the Lord Krishna's relationship with the gopis. So this is quite unique. Like, for example, when you look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's discussion with Venkata Bhatta and Sri Rangam in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, there's some very highly elevated discussions about the position of Lakshmi and the position of Radharani and the position of the gopis. It's just very amazing, the explanations that Prabhupada is giving there. And there's a lot of this all over the Krishna book and the what's called a Rasa Dhyayi, the 5 chapters of the Rasa Leela. There's just a lot of very unique, very special explanation from Srila Prabhupada, how he presents it. So it's just a very special nectar that Prabhupada has given. I think we're reaching towards the end of our allotted time, but I want to thank everyone very much for their participation and questions. If anybody has any last comments, please do so.
I'll just wind up the session today and thank everyone as well for your participation in the discussion of our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada gave us this instruction: work now, samadhi later. I've heard it today in the class. Work now, samadhi later. So just to bring it down to the current time and place where we are participating in the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the greatest opportunity that any of us can have, and especially to protect Prabhupada's legacy in his books and to preach to others this message of Lord Chaitanya to new people. Because I'll go back, Garuda Prabhu, to my philosopher friend. I'll tell him, I'll say, well, what's the difference between myself and Socrates? He'll talk about Socrates. I say, well, the big difference is I'm alive, he's dead. You can only do something in terms of promoting a cause or a mission when you're alive. And when you read the Caitanya-caritāmṛta Jiva Goswami, you become part of that Leela. And you start to realize that we're connected with this Leela. We're in it. It's not that we're dreaming about it. This is a real mission. So it's work now, samadhi later. If we just continue to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada and protect his legacy, then Prabhupada will protect us, take us back home, back to Godhead when we leave this miserable earth of birth, death, disease, and old age. Vinkat, please. Go ahead.
I think that Dr. Ron had a comment. You make a brief comment, Dr. Ron.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we were discussing about Socrates. So Srila Prabhupada has a wonderful discussion with Hare Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's early disciples, who was also a professor, where Hare Prabhu presents the different philosophical angles from all these people like Socrates, Plato, Carl Jung, Freud. So that book, it's a very powerful conversation, and it's recorded in audio format. You don't have to go to the book. You can go directly to the audio. So it's a very powerful dialectic conversation where Srila Prabhupada is presenting the Acharya's commentary on different philosophers. So just that's it.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Yes, dialectic spiritualism, I believe it is. Garuda, the book, we have it. So you could go to that. Vinkat Prabhu, is there any other questions that came up on the chat, or should we go right to the chant?
There was one question, there's one comment on YouTube by Bipin Bihari Prabhu from Radhakund. He says, there are many devotees who come here to Radhakund and follow Babaji's and become confused or mad. Just a comment. And then there was a question by Vinayak Sharma Prabhu. There's no Madhurya between Vishnu and a lot of Lakshmis in Vaikuntha? So that's the question. Is there a Madhurya rasa?
We'll answer that in the future classes. But thank you everyone for today's participation, and we'll go to the kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Let us pay our obeisances to the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpa, Trubhyascha,
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
We'll see everybody on Saturday morning